stories on the fly.
Call PassTheScopeEDU and
we'll bring it to you live.
Let's go!
Yo, events, we got ya. Conference too, we got ya. Stories told round the globe, truth unfold. So here we go, we got ya.
PassTheScopeEDU live after the bell fly. Lifting our voices well. We got a story to tell. After the bell say,
let's go!
Here's your favorite part. Hey,
there she goes. Want to run and
let's go.
Want to run and pick her up.
Yeah, there we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Pass the Scope EDU After the Bell series. We are debriefing the 21 Changemaker EDU virtual conference. We got something special for you today. Let's welcome our very special peeps, Val and Tutul. What's up, y'all?
Yo!
We making it. We living the dream.
Good seeing y'all. Good seeing y'all.
Yeah, it's good seeing you as well. It's raining out here in Texas, which is good because it's been 105 degrees. It's been a little warm.
Yeah, this heat makes me wonder what the winter is going to be like.
I don't care as long as it don't snow here in Texas. I don't care.
It's hot here. I'm in Cali. It's whatever.
Yeah. I hear you. But what else was hot was the conference, right?
Yes,
absolutely.
That was hot.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we're going to bring in Jesse Lubinsky. You know, every time I want to say his last name, you know, I want to say it with some sort of accent. You know, I don't know what I want to do with it. We'll talk about that later on. But he's one of the organizers of the conference, and he'll be, come in and give us a chance to hear about the vision. You know, what are the key takeaways from the conference and things of that nature, along with some special presenters from the conference as well. Before we do that, we will not be remiss. We don't want to be remiss by mentioning our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Curriculum Associates and Wacom. And we'll have some advertisements from them later on in the show. Cool. All right. So how about we don't delay this any further, and let's go ahead and bring Jesse on to the platform. What's up, Jesse? How you doing?
I'm back. I was here for Power Up. I was like, I knew I'd get back at some point. Here I am. Back.
That is right. And you know, we've been doing a lot of stuff together here lately.
Yeah, Liberated Educator. This one, yeah, a lot of stuff.
Yeah, which actually, Jesse, I will be honest with you, that has become the most popular episode right now on Liberated Educator.
Is that true? That can't be true.
That is true, bro.
That is
true.
Wow.
That is true. That is true right now.
I think it was my mini keynote on Prince. I think that's what that was inspirational, and people really took that to heart.
Well, actually, what really made it lit was the Black Panther conversations, the Captain America conversations, which were so timely, you know, with what was going on in the Marvel MCU.
Yeah,
you know, at the time. But we are so thrilled to have you though tonight to talk about the Changemaker Conference.
I'm super happy to be here and really excited. You know, I have to tell you, we were bummed last week that we didn't get a chance to sit in with you guys and talk through the conference while it was going on. But I was telling you guys before we went to air how interesting it was to listen to you guys talk about the conference through your lens without having me talk about kind of our vision for it and what we were hoping to get across, because I think you guys brought up some really interesting points that I was almost like talking to the car radio as you guys were talking. I'm like, oh yeah, I want to talk more about that. Like, that's a really interesting point. Cool. I didn't think of that, but let's talk about that. So I'm glad we're going to get into it today.
Absolutely. And it was great that we were able to come in last week because you guys were hosting a 2-week conference. And we already know with all the things that are going on with people, day-to-day lives, traveling, schedules, we really didn't want to wait until the very end. We wanted to be able to give people the opportunity and the time to process at least what they had already seen within those first few days. And so we didn't want to miss that opportunity. I mean, we certainly wanted to have you guys on board, but we said, you know what? People may want to just share their thoughts or hear, or maybe some people didn't even know that it was going on, and we want to give them a fair opportunity to register and still sign up.
I'm totally glad you did for all those reasons and more. You know, this was totally a different experience than we originally thought we were going to be providing. So I think we thought very much like last year, we were going to be doing a live virtual conference. And as we started to move over to an asynchronous model for some reasons that we'll get into, it just made so much sense. But I think even when you do that, there's a piece of it where you're like, on conference day when it all starts and everyone's in, you're kind of like, okay, everything's up. And all of a sudden, there's no support issues and there's nothing that, like, what are we supposed to be doing right now? Like it's just kind of running and we're just kind of watching it kind of happen and all the tweets and all the comments. And I think, Val, to your point, summer's a real tough time. Even though people do a lot of PD, I don't think people realize the sacrifice educators have to make to do that PD. Like they dip into their own time to do this. It's not like they're necessarily being given school time. So making sure that we're giving enough time for people to be able to create their schedule into something that works for them is really important.
Yeah, and going back to kind of our format, and every time, it's almost like we always find like a little piece of a little nugget to talk about, to hang on to, and it's never something that's like always evident, but in the conversation we're always able to tease out something very particular. And like you were saying, like, oh, I thought about, oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. Like it always seems to come up, and we always find that one thing, and we have that really cool conversation. And I really love to be able to like further that conversation we had last week, to bring it to now and then get your input on it, so we can take that conversation to the next step.
It might help for anyone listening. And by the way, if you're listening live while we're doing this, that means there's still a few hours left to go register, watch a couple sessions if you want to do that. It's still running through today, and that's bit.ly/21changemaker. But just to kind of give you guys some insight into kind of how this all came about, during the pandemic, we ran the Changemaker Conference last year as a way of just giving back to educators, and to really help support the work that was going to happen moving into this unknown school year, in terms of what was, no one knew what the 2021 school year was going to be like. I think what we found was, as the school year launched, our work started to evolve. So whereas we were really doing a lot of work around emerging technology, we were just trying to keep schools afloat this year and just make sure that educators had the support they needed. And that took on a different look this year, I think, right? So, whereas most PD had been done in person, now all of a sudden everything was being done virtually, not just classroom instruction, but PD. And so that really got us thinking about, well, what is PD going to look like as we start to, what is professional learning going to look like as we start to kind of return to this new, I hate the term new normal, but it does kind of describe what we're talking about. And Brian's shaking his head. But, as we start to like look ahead, I think, and we talked about this during the Power Up conference, are we going to look at what the last year was like and try to take lessons away from what worked and what didn't and apply that to moving forward? So I think there's always going to be a place for in-person PD. And in fact, right now I'm sitting in a hotel room in Alabama because I'm going to be doing some in-person PD tomorrow. But I also know that from a practical standpoint, many schools, whether they're rural or poor socioeconomic areas, can't afford to bring in high quality speakers. And so our kind of goal was, how do we democratize, for lack of a better word, professional learning so that every student has access to a teacher who's received the best professional development? How can I bring Val into a school when I couldn't necessarily afford to do that? If I'm we all know PD is the first thing that gets cut off those budgets. That's the first thing to go when they start cutting budgets. And guess what? They're cutting budgets. So how do we provide an affordable option for teachers? And I felt very strongly about keeping the Changemaker Conference free for this year. So Donnie Piercy, who's one of our co-hosts of the Partial Credit podcast, he actually won the Kentucky Teacher of the Year award. Through that, he met Teachers of the Year from across the country, and they were looking to do some work. They were itching. As Teachers of the Year, they haven't been able to go and do anything really this year. So he asked me to help, with an event for them. And I said, well, we were looking to run the Changemaker event. So, we were able to get Juliana Urtube, who is the 2021 National Teacher of the Year, to be our keynote. We had 20 other Teachers of the Year promoting their platforms. And, Tutula, you brought up a really interesting point last time about, like, what does it mean to be a change maker? And, are we looking past just kind of the pandemic type issues? And what was interesting to me in approaching a lot of these educators who really exist outside of the ed tech space was their platforms as Teacher of the Year are all things that are, anti-racist work, equity work, inclusion work. We had Owen Bandano, who is the Michigan Teacher of the Year, is the first transgender person to be awarded Teacher of the Year. And he actually did a session for our conference on LGBTQ plus, practices in terms of how do we actually engage with those students and support them. I mean, you name it. Those issues are really deep issues and issues that impact every classroom, but are often things that aren't tackled in traditional professional development. We wanted to make sure we were able to promote those platforms through the conference.
Excellent. As thunder is actually coming through, my house. Really love what you do. And actually, we have some people that spoke at your conference, this year and backstage. We're going to bring them on. But before we bring them on, we need to break for a word from our sponsors, Curriculum Associates.
Curriculum Associates, we believe in making classrooms better places for teachers and students, and leading the way is iReady. It's easy to see the value that iReady brings to a classroom. iReady provides actionable, intuitive data about all of your students. iReady figures out where students are with their math and reading skills, and then assigns instruction to help support students with their growth. iReady reveals with reliable accuracy where students are strongest and where they need the most support domain by domain. Automatically clusters students into small groups with shared needs for more targeted instruction, and informs instruction by pointing educators towards resources, both print and digital lessons. Plus, iReady monitors students' online usage and passing rates on their digital lessons, so you're better able to figure out how they are doing and what you can do to help. Think of all the time iReady gives you back, time to do everything else. Assessment, instruction, outstanding teacher support. There's a lot to iReady, so let's explore and learn more together.
All right, and we thank Curriculum Associates for sponsoring this. So you can find more information about iReady at curriculumassociates.com. And we want to welcome to the platform. Actually, I miss Natasha, but the last time I saw Natasha was pre-doctor. But and then we have Eric Kurtz on with us as well. I'll let Jesse, you're muted. My bad. I had to mute you because you were drinking.
Oh, I said
during the commercial.
I've seen her since she's become a doctor, and she's just as cool. It didn't
cool.
get in her head.
All right. Well, since it's your conference, we'll let you introduce the two new guests and what they did for the conference.
Yeah. So people always say your value is your network, and I'm fortunate enough to have a network that includes people like Eric Kurtz and Dr. Natasha Rochelle, who are two absolutely inspirational educators. Eric knows this story already, but I was actually nervous the first time I met him. Like, I actually kind of geeked out a little bit. He hates when I tell this, but it's totally true. And actually, one of the teachers of the year tweeted out when she saw the conference roster, "I'm presenting at a conference with Eric Kurtz." So it's that kind of thing. Eric's amazing. He has a book, Control Alt Achieve, from Burgess Consulting Inc. Just incredibly inspirational. Dr. Natasha Rochelle is the new director of education technology for Atlanta Public Schools. Did I get the position right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Look at that. And she also is an author and co-authored the Microsoft Diffuse Classroom from Elevate EDU books. Both just incredible presenters, incredible people. And we were so happy. And, I was happy when you guys told me Eric was going to be on, because Eric, I'm revealing this to the world, but your session outside of the keynotes was the most viewed session during our conference. So his session was Google Tools for Struggling Students. And I think, both the content and even the topic are so important, and it speaks a lot to what educators need.
That's fantastic.
And with that, here's Eric and Natasha.
Absolutely. So yeah, Eric, you're gonna have to give us some of those big rocks. You're gonna have to dive a little bit into what that session was. And I agree with Jesse. So as I was going through the analytics and the thread and just trying to see what the viewers, because at PassTheScopeEDU, we're really about amplifying the teacher's voice. We're really about promoting the perspective of those that are attending the conference more so. And your name kept coming up through the thread. And that's why I said, okay, I got to reach out, because this is what the people are saying they found valuable or resourceful, or they were able to take a lot away from the session. So tell the viewers about your session, the idea behind why you built this session, and why you think it's important or impactful in this industry.
Absolutely, yeah. So my session was called Google Tools for Struggling Students, and it's something that I've been presenting in one form or another because it just grows and morphs over time. Probably for a decade, I've been sharing these resources. When I first started it out, it was, just a couple of small tools that were kind of designed to support, in that time, special education specifically. But over time, I realized good tools are good for all learners. I mean, and I changed the title over the years to Google Tools for Struggling Students because we all struggle. We can all put ourselves in that position. There's tools in the session that I use, and there's times that these are going to be beneficial for all of us. And I think some of the things as to why this became even more important over the last few years was because students may not have had a teacher right there with them. They were learning from home, or it was a hybrid situation, and they were losing out on some of that necessary support that they would normally be getting right there in their classroom. And one thing to help is technology. And so the session just covers loads and loads and loads and loads of tools. I break it up into different sections. We talk about, text-to-speech tools, things to read text aloud to students, whether it's read and write for Chrome or immersive reader, things like that. Then we do speech to text so that students, when they've got all these wonderful ideas in their head, instead of cutting them short and making their long sentences shorter when they're trying to type and they're getting frustrated, they can just do speech to text and use things like Doc's voice typing or voice in voice typing or things like that to be able to get all of their ideas out and onto the page. We look at tools to help students be able to read better online by reducing distractions, and tools to improve reading comprehension, like Google Dictionary, or summarization tools like Quillbot. And then we got into other tools like audio support tools, like Mote, wonderful tool that allows a teacher to be able to put audio into pretty much anything to give students audio support in a slideshow or in a Google form, so that a Google form, they can now hear the teacher's voice giving them information, or into a document, and on and on and on. And so that's really what the whole the session is about, is just, buckle up and hold on. We're going to run through a whole bunch of awesome tools, and every single tool in there is free. Now, some of them do have a paid version. That's wonderful. If it's a tool you love and you want those additional, features, please do that, and that's a great thing to support them. But everything I shared in there is something that you can use immediately today at no cost whatsoever.
So thinking about our current environment, and I think Jesse kind of alluded to this, we're moving into this new space, right? We're going back in person, but we've learned so much this past year being virtual. How do you see kind of that intersection? We talk about a lot on this show, that intersection between this virtual space and the online space, and how are these tools that you talk about, how does that help us facilitate us moving forward, not moving backwards, but like innovating and allowing teachers to be able to support our students now that we know what we know?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think that became pretty obvious, again, like I said, when the pandemic hit, when people realized I'm losing, for example, a personal touch with my students. And then, a tool like, Mote, for example, as we've mentioned, allowing the teacher to very easily to be able to record their voice and put that into a presentation or a document or whatever the case might be. I think what my hope is that, really, with all technology, but specifically with these tools we've been talking about here, is that that's something that we bring with us as we continue to move forward. A lot of people were kind of forced into a situation where, well, I need something now. I need something to support my students, and I need a better way to be able to connect with my students. Well, now that we've seen it, what if we're, let's say we're back in the class and it's face to face. We still can take advantage of these tools. These still can be something that we are using, and not to say, oh, we're back to our class now. Okay, don't have to worry about that stuff anymore. Let's move on. No, let's use technology to do what it does best, so we have the time to do what we do best, so that we can connect with students and make a difference in their lives, and allow the technology to pick up some of those other things and free us up some more, even if it is a face-to-face situation. And it's not always going to be. There's still going to be situations where students are learning from home, or students just learn better sometimes in a different environment, and we want to take advantage of these tools so that learning is authentic and is engaging and is really connecting with those students.
Woo, Eric, don't you just want to like have him a bedtime story? Like his voice is so calming. I love it. I totally co-sign everything Eric just said. One of the things that we're finding, let me back up a little bit. Of course, everything Eric just said, I'm just sitting here like, yes, yes, yes. So, of course, with the pandemic happening, it exposed a lot of inequities, right? As far as technology and what students have and don't have and that kind of thing. And so what I have loved about the pandemic is that we've been able to put those pieces of technology into more and more students' hands. And so I think a lot of our students have been able to take advantage of all of these amazing things that their teachers have for them. And so just like Eric said, my prayer, my hope is that when we do return, we go back next week, that it is not okay, I'm done with that, time for business as usual, because it's not business as usual. It is, as Brian loves to say, a new normal, right? One of the things that we're finding here in my district is that a lot of our parents are like, well, my student thrived being at home. And so our enrollment for our virtual academy is like through the roof. Like, I think we're going to have to hire more teachers to support the amount of kids that are coming in. So it worked for a lot of students. Teachers found a way to be innovative and creative. And I hope that as we move on into the fall, that this just like continues to just go up and up and up.
Natasha, I know this may be a little off the beaten path a little bit, but can you talk about that virtual academy a little bit more? Because, me, Brian, and Valerie were talking about this last week. Like, how do we maintain this online space and not lose it because we're going to be in space? So maybe you can talk to us a little bit about what that looks like. And you said you have to hire more teachers. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, so it's called Atlanta Virtual Academy. Total plug for it. It's not my baby. I did used to teach for them years ago, but I actually have three colleagues that facilitate that. It's a program, not a school. We have to be very careful. It's a program, not a school. But it started out really small with maybe 100 students. I think now they're up to close to 600 students. They actually the teachers are moving into a building this year. So we have hired a full-time teaching staff that's going to teach kids grades K through 12. And we have also assigned them an educational technology specialist. And so the teachers will be teaching, and they have their own educational technology specialist that's helping with all these amazing resources and tools to make sure that those lessons continue to be engaging. And it's not just, hey, here's, some work to do online. So we're excited, and we're seeing a lot of great stuff that's coming out of it.
That is phenomenal. I'm so glad to hear that. Excuse me, my dog's in the background. That's so phenomenal. I just hope and pray that we're able to learn, and as a community, that we can like push this virtual space forward. So, like you said, some kids did thrive, and, we don't want to throw that away because we're going back in person, but to like actually put some resources into that is great. I love to hear that.
Thank you.
I think it actually speaks a little bit to the whole nature of professional learning changing too, right? Because if anything, it's not just students who were able to learn differently, it's teachers as well. So I think part of the conference was a kind of test model for, well, is this type of professional learning going to work moving forward? So in other words, we have 60 asynchronous sessions. I know I watched a couple while I was on the bike. So, I kind of watched them in bits. And, this thing was actually optimized for mobile. So, I'm not saying teachers are going to be like, what I want to do when I get home from work after a long day, do some PD. But I do think there's this ability to give some freedom and choice over the way we learn professionally, and still give opportunities for that learning to happen. And, I think there's a lot of pieces of professional learning we built into the experience, such as micro-credentialing, certificates of completion, I think that social component's still being built out a little bit. We had commenting, but I would like it to be a little bit more robust. We've been working with Learner Mobile on developing out the platform. But, as we start to look forward to the fall, the platform itself is going to continue on beyond the conference, where we have already 100 plus courses that are part of the platform, and then another 50 scheduled workshops and things that are going to be running as part of the fall, while we continue to add more sessions from artists like, Natasha and Eric and a bunch of the other conference presenters. And I think the key thing is to keep bringing people in who address a large number of needs that aren't met. So, and I'll give you one example. Anthony Coy Gonzalez, who's the teacher of the year from Ohio, he's a teacher for deaf and hard of hearing students. And we talked about the fact that oftentimes in schools, you only have one educator who teaches those students, and that person never gets PD, because for that person to get PD, you have to bring in someone from one school in Washington, D.C. that costs $5,000 or $6,000. So what if we're able to provide an experience where schools can address all their learning needs, and there aren't people in the school community who feel left out or ostracized from being able to participate in that learning experience, where schools can see who's done what, those credentials, micro credentials, can carry on from experience to experience. Those could be shared on LinkedIn or Twitter. I think that's the vision, is how do we kind of reinvent professional learning based on the needs of educators that we've identified as part of this evolving shift based on what we've learned through the pandemic. I feel like I should also say, for more information on that, check out changemakeredu.org. Like I'm talking about it, I didn't tell anyone where to go to look for that. So changemakeredu.org, you can find out more information about the subscription models and what we're doing with schools. But yeah, now I'll turn it back over to you guys. Sorry.
Hold on. What was that? Changemakeredu.org?
Yeah, the conference is there as well, and the platform is app.changemakeredu.org. That's where the conference was held. But I think for people to see the different types of offerings, as well as the courses that we're offering this fall, which is continuously updating. I have meetings that we're going to be scheduling with all of our presenters, late August to mid-September, to kind of get things on the calendar. The nice part is, if I'm an educator, like Eric, for instance, and I want to offer a 3-part course on, Google tools for struggling students, we can create a micro-credential for that and offer that out. So the teachers can be like, hey, I took a 3-part course on this. This is something that I'm now, certified by Eric Kurtz, which, by the way, carries a lot of weight. If you are certified by Eric Kurtz,
that's a T-shirt, man.
It's
a T-shirt. It's a T-shirt.
Certified by Eric Kurtz. Yeah.
Eric, I would totally buy one.
I would get one of those T-shirts too, actually.
But Jesse, I love that what you just said, something that sparked a thought for that sign language teacher, right? Like, for you to have something for them, it absolutely validates who they are and what they do. And I didn't even think about a teacher that teaches sign language or something like that they would need. Of course they need professional development, but you always think math, science, social studies, ELA, health and PE, you just don't think about the one-off teachers that make a huge impact on students' lives that don't get what they need.
Or even one-off topics. So the last person that actually jumped that we brought onto the conference was Brooke Whitlow, who's a friend of ours from Kentucky. And she's now doing work for schools around public relations. Oftentimes schools pay a ton of money to go hire firms to learn the basics of this stuff. Whereas we have an expert, Brooke, who's been doing this for years and is now basically imparting her wisdom through the platform and through this free conference to educators on the basics of school public relations. And, you can either come to the platform and learn more through Brooke's courses, or go to Brooke directly and work with her. I mean, either way, the idea is, like I said, to make sure schools have access to the best professional development for a price they can afford, because many schools can't afford to bring in top level talent.
Go ahead, Valerie.
No, Brian, you go. I'll come in after you.
You coming after me?
Yep.
Now I just lost my train of
playing
thought.
double dutch. Like who's?
I wanted to go back to the virtual school, because yes, I say the new normal. Here in the state of Texas, our governor has shut down the entire notion of schools being able to offer a virtual option now. And I'm one of those parents and advocates, that saw my own kids thrive in that particular environment.
Same here.
Me too.
But I also saw something that we would not see if not for the situation. I saw teachers pimping the inside of their boxes going beyond the edges of their envelopes. I mean, I saw change that we've been fussing about for the last 5, 6, 7, even 10 years. They maybe have been forced to change because of the time that we were in, but yet change took place and it was a positive change. And we saw a new set of kids coming to the top or feeling more comfortable, with, their learning experiences and expressing themselves creatively. But we've got an entire state that is in a rush to get back to the way it used to be, because they're more comfortable with that. What is the advice? Because, a lot of these conferences are for teachers. And, and these teachers go back and they hear these wonderful ideas, but then they go back to these, I don't even know what to call it right now. Speak upon that, though.
Brian, what you're talking about, and I think, when we talk about like the whole like learning loss and the return to get back to school the way it was, these are all politicized concepts that really are not. It doesn't deal with the practical reality of what was actually happening in our classrooms over the past year. I mean, what was really happening was educators, like you said, might have had to have been pushed, but as a profession, our capacity, particularly our capacity for use of technology, we move mountains. That doesn't mean teachers now necessarily want to, I think we all agree they don't necessarily want to be tied to a screen or be doing it was just too exhausting. But just the capacity and the ability to be able to now conceive of how to leverage technology in a meaningful way has made that movement. So for us to say, let's rush back to doing things the way we were doing it with Sage on a stage in front of a classroom and going, strictly by the standards is, well, sadly, it's to be expected in some places. So I think that's part of where our work comes in, is how do we help reconceptualize at least a part of that in terms of how we support teachers? Because, if a teacher wants to do something, they're going to find a way to do it. And unfortunately, it's been on the teacher to have to do that most of the time. So you're right. Schools are not supporting teachers in doing this in many cases. But we still need to give teachers that ability to be able to support themselves and give them those resources, give them those tools, and give them that ability to kind of pull themselves up even when everything else is pulling them down.
I hate the term learning loss, right? Like,
it's the worst. It is the worst.
I interviewed for an article, and when they contacted me, they wanted me to talk about learning loss. That's what they said. And I was like, First of all, there was no learning loss. Let's be 100% clear. Teachers were 100% resilient. Students were 100% resilient. We saw people change by leaps and bounds. And to say that there was learning loss indicates that a teacher did not do anything for almost a year and a half.
Well, let's talk about what they're talking about, though. They mean something very specific by learning loss. We're being real and saying there was learning happening. Our kids developed skills that we never would have developed before because we had no way to develop them. What they're talking about when they're talking about learning loss is learning loss in regards to being able to pass a standardized exam, which funds the pockets of big testing and all the other stuff. That is the learning loss. It was a very specific lens, and only educators know that stuff doesn't matter.
Right. But my thing is learning loss compared to who? Because every student across the world was at home at the same time. So we were all in the same boat. It's not like China went back and Canada went back and Mexico went back and we just stayed home. Like, learning loss compared to who? If that's the case, everybody had learning loss, but I refuse to use it. It's like, it just drives me crazy. It drives me crazy.
And that's clutch because, I, as a special education administrator, I'm ready. I'm waiting for these parents that are going to show up and say, oh, now my child needs an IEP because of the last 18 months and because they've lost learning or, because I already know they're ready and they're coming. I mean, there's an IEP for everyone. We're all on one, whether you put it on a formalized or formal 17 to 18 page document and print it out. We all have an individualized learning plan. And I think that's what Eric was saying earlier. Just give good tools work for all kids. Effective teaching strategies work for all kids. We don't go get a gifted endorsement because we want to teach the kids that met the 3 out of the 4 criteria. We should be using those gifted strategies for all students so they all grow either way. So you're absolutely correct. There's no learning loss. It's all politics. It's all funding. It's all of that nonsense. Just do the work that needs to be done. Just do the doggone thing.
Period.
Let's focus on kids. How about that? Instead of just writing that on paper, instead of just saying, oh, this is uncomfortable. We want to go back to the way things were normal. Well, who is that for? Oh, that's for us, the adults. Oh, forget about the customers that we serve, the kids, because if we were really thinking about them, then we would have been doing all of these things that we did in the past 18 months had they truly been at the forefront or the heart or the core of education. So we want to talk about it. Let's talk about that. Are we being selfish? Are we being, let's get to the real. Give me the meats. Take it off the bones, matter of fact. Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about
Period,
that.
Valerie.
Period. She had her preaching voice on, but ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a break for just a second for a word from another of our sponsors. But let me mention once again, if you want a chance to win one of the prizes at the end of the show, make sure that while you're in the chat, go ahead and put in 21 Changemaker, hashtag 21 Changemaker for your chance to win. You just have to put it in the chat and we'll be able to calculate it later. Let us break for a moment for a word from our sponsors. Great.
Wacom pen tablets help teachers create engaging lessons for both in-person and remote learning. Teachers use the digital pens to illustrate concepts and annotate lessons or students' work. Educators can use the pen tablets to create engaging presentations, easily use online whiteboards, and create instructional videos. The tablets come with online teaching software, including 3 months of the professional versions of Limnu, Kami, Peer Deck, Explain Everything, and Collaboard. Both are compatible with Mac or PC computers and now Chromebooks as well, at no charge to purchasers of One by Wacom and Intuos pen tablets. With a Wacom pen tablet, teachers and students are free to express themselves in ways not attainable with a computer mouse or trackpad.
And thank you to Wacom for sponsoring the show. Once again, you can actually find more information about Wacom tablets and how you can actually utilize them in the classroom by going to wacom.com/en-us/education. Okay, somebody said to Valerie, let's talk about that. For sure. So we might as well pick it up from there. But I want to say something real quick. We had someone that entered to the contest and put in hashtag 21 Changemaker. I apologize. That's all one word. So if you put a space after 21, it will not log your entry. So please make sure you go back and put in 21 Changemaker, sort of like that. How about that? Let's talk about that.
Hashtag, let's talk about that. Capital letters.
All right, well, cool. Let's go ahead and get back to it. Jesse, real quick question. So, so Tua brought this up last week. So when you came up with the term changemakers for your conference, how and why? And what was the point behind it all? Oh.
I think last week was okay.
Sorry. My bad.
Let's talk about that. Yeah, so that was one of the great things about listening to you guys last week, was hearing Tutul kind of unpack a little bit of what his perception was, or some of the things he was thinking. And I think initially we were looking for a term. Like I said, the term changemaker was actually a term that we were just using for the conference last year. After the conference, we incorporated it as a company, and that became a subsidiary company of Ready Learner One and TMI Education. But I think the thinking was very much in line with what we were talking about before, in terms of how educators are always the ones that are pushing the change out there, right? It's not the system that's doing it. It's us. It's the people doing it. And actually, the logo itself, we were talking about this right before we came on the air, just about logo design. And the logo for Changemaker was actually designed by Monica Martinez, who seems like she designs the logos for everybody. And I don't know if you've looked at it or even thought about it, but it's really two people holding hands with three people holding hands, and one person is actually, helping bring change to the other two. And it's very simplistic, but I think very powerful. And the idea being that people bring rabbits. When she broke that down,
look, she can be everyone's logo. That's brilliant.
Like, I loved it visually, but then when we started talking through how she came up with the design, I was like, that's exactly what we were thinking of. It's great. So I think
I'm a former science teacher. It looked like some kind of chemical equation to me. So it looked like an atom, or I went science.
Right.
It's dope.
I'm not going to spend 20 minutes. And I actually unpack this logo for like 20 minutes and talk about all the things I like about it and just why it's such a good logo. But I think it fit with that idea of, changes spread ultimately through us as practitioners, right? So all it takes is for one of us to learn a new practice, learn a new skill, learn a new tool, and we go back and we actually help be part of that change in the classroom, not just for our students, for ourselves, for our colleagues. And it's like, viral is probably not the right word to use, but I think that's ultimately what it is, right? That's how change usually happens in education, is it's spread through enthusiasm and passion. I think the one thing Tutul talked about last week that I want to make sure I addressed was, we didn't think of this just through the lens of the pandemic. I think what we're talking about is all the change that's necessary in education. So I think that's why it was so important for me to get, my network is an EdTech network, right? So I know both Eric and Natasha through kind of the EdTech world. But all these teachers of the year who we were able to bring in through Donnie, I don't think I've ever met a group of more inspirational educators in my life. And they are all so passionate about things that are important to our students' lives: equity, diversity, inclusion, things that are, we touch on in tech, but they're not, we maybe scratch the surface, right? And so we hear a lot of schools talk about, doing work in anti-racist education and things like that. But I think we also know that in a lot of cases, they're checking boxes. They're just trying to basically say that they did the work and that they had the conversation, or say that they had the conversations, but don't really want to do the continuous work needed. And I think part of being a change maker is showing that commitment to doing what's necessary to create a better learning environment for all of our students.
And I love the fact that you guys brought to the table the Teacher of the Year. I don't think I've ever seen or been to a conference where we've had that many. I mean, you may have one, the state winner or the national winner, but just to see that chain of Teacher of the Year, we consider them ordinary people. These are the frontline soldiers. They're in the classrooms. They're the ones doing the work, the heavy lifting, and to bring them onto a platform to say, here's what I'm doing each and every day to impact change in the classroom, to change lives of students. And that's powerful, because we know we always get the big names at conferences. You get, and that's a recyclable list, so to speak. You see the same thing, the same people, the same voices. But to meet all these people, I remember when I was going through the bios of the conference page and there were so many faces on there, I was like, I don't really know that person, or I've never seen that person. I was just intrigued by the work that they've done. And I said, that's what drew me in more so, because I'm like, okay, well, I can tell you probably what this person's going to talk about. I've seen them at this conference, but I wanted to hear from them, because if they were the Teacher of the Year, well, heck, I want to aspire to be like them, and not just the Teacher of the Year in their building or their county, but they want it for their state. So good God, they must have done something, major. So that was awesome to bring all those
the running joke
together.
The running joke, Val, was, every presenter who's ever done work for Changemaker, like I said, because we want to keep a high level of quality, we go through a very rigorous vetting process, or I've seen you present, or we know you. And I had told them, I'm like, you guys have been through a more rigorous vetting process than I could ever put you through in order to win in your individual states. And what was so cool was many of them are not natural conference presenters, but are so passionate about their topics, and that comes through in their in the sessions and the work that they did. And many of them are coming back to do longer courses and workshops with us moving forward. So we're hoping to just keep that content coming. But I kept telling people, like Allison Sir, who was one of the teachers of the year from California, like she gave a kidney to another teacher. Like these are like real legit, like the gold standard of not just teachers, but people. And I think that's what we talk about when we talk about inspirational educators, people who really really give of themselves to make it happen.
Yo, she giving up kidneys. She got it. Got it.
That's a heck of a bar. Gotta give the kidney.
Speaking of prizes for the contest now.
I know. So Natasha, tell us about your session. What was it that you presented? What are the big rocks? And, why is this so impactful in education?
Thank you. So my session was called How to Create and Deliver Engaging Lessons for Blended Learning. And similar to Eric's, it was just a ton of resources that I shared and talked about some creative ways that they could use those resources in the classroom, whether we were going back face-to-face, hybrid, or blended. And what we're finding is, everyone watches the news, right? We still could potentially start school and end up right back at home. We don't know. And so my whole goal in this session was making sure that teachers had a list of resources, a full toolbox, if you will, of things that they could pull from to make sure that their lessons were engaging for students. And so some of the things that I shared a resource, and it's still, let me say this, it still amazes me, I guess because I'm in the ed tech space, how many teachers don't know about what's out there for them. And everything I shared, like Eric, was free. I believe in free 99. There were premium or freemium versions of some of the resources. But some of the things that I shared were, for example, a resource called I Fake Text Message that I actually found out about from Tony Vincent years ago. And it allows you to create fake text messages. And, how cool would it be if your teacher came up to you, I don't even know, I'm so showing my age. I don't even know who's popular and hip right now. But if your teacher came up to you with their phone with this fake text message from Cardi B, heck, I don't know, whoever the person is right now. Or back in my day, Snoop Dogg or whoever. But anyway, but just it could have hey, Valerie, you did great on your test today, West Side from Ice Cube. Would you not freak out seeing that on your teacher's phone? So just some creative ways to use stuff like that. I also talked about them being able to use that in an English classroom and sharing dialogue, creating a fake text message, creating dialogue, because when you know how to use a word in a conversation, you know what it means, right? You don't have to do, right. Somebody said skilo. I went to high school with skilo. I did.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite, random fact about Natasha, other than that she's Canadian.
I am Canadian, and I did go to
Skilo. Wait, Skilo, yeah. Canadian. Wait, you went to high school with Skilo?
In California.
Not in Canada, yeah.
I'm gonna say Skilo's.
No, okay. California, Canyon Springs High School. Whoop whoop. Yeah, he was there with me. He was not. And he is whatever, y'all. But I also shared, a lot of teachers didn't know that Canva is absolutely free for educators. So, I just share that with anybody that will listen. And Canva has done such a phenomenal job at the resources that they have in there for education. If there's a company that monopolized, not financially, but monopolized on the pandemic for educators, Canva was it. I also shared Headspace just as a resource for teachers to share with their students as well as just themselves, because that's free for educators in 3 different countries. And then I shared some of my friends' resources. So Emma Pass, who I was just talking to Jeff about last night, I shared she has a whole hybrid handbook that she's created. I shared Mari Venturino, who does amazing things with student check-ins, which is so important for our students right now, just to make sure that their mental health and just their physical space is accommodating for whatever learning they're going to go back to. And so, yeah, just a ton of stuff. I could totally just keep talking, but tons and tons of stuff.
So Jesse, folks can still register right now. If they're
You
watching.
can register now up through tonight. And in fact, there's a link I know Brian's going to share. Our partners at ViewSonic, who helped us put on this conference, they're giving away 3 whiteboards to registrants. That's actually a link to sign up for the contest to win one of the whiteboards. I have to tell you, you will never have better odds of winning a free electronic whiteboard. So you would be doing yourself a disservice if you did not sign up to try to win one of these. But yeah, we're still taking registrations through tonight. There's still some time left to attend a couple sessions. But even if you miss out on that, like I said, this is just the start of the work that we're going to be doing with Changemaker that we've been doing over the past year. And that, again, changemakeredu.org. But our plan, my hope, is that we'll be doing this conference free every summer, and in a similar model. That this is just something we can now do as a not a thank you, but just as a good practice for educators to get people together to talk not just about ed tech, but about all the different things that are up and current, and to make sure that every teacher has access to high quality PD. You know, I don't know what the final numbers are, but when I last checked, we were around 1,600 attendees for the conference. So, you know, for a 2-week event, just really great. And I think one of the things I loved was going in every day. You could see who's earned what badge and who's attended which sessions, the comments that were there, the feedback. It's just really, and the emails that have been pouring in. Even just now when I checked, a couple of the teachers of the year had emailed me to just talk about what a great experience this was to be able to kind of do this at their own pace and on their own schedule. Because I know I've had the problem of going to a conference and there's 3 things at the same time. You know, it's usually Eric and Natasha and one other person. I can't decide what I want to go to. So I think giving, you know, we talk all the time about giving voice and choice to our students, but we don't really think about that for our teachers.
Yeah, and I think Brian and I had that conversation. Brian, we were talking about, I think you, myself, and Tatul actually were saying how we've covered other conferences before, and that was one thing that we noticed about this conference, where sometimes, you know, day one, there are these presenters, but then you can't get to all 20 of them, and then the next day there's another. But we really like the fact that you can kind of go to, so I don't know if Brian wants to speak to that, and I'll share someone who DM'd me on Facebook from Bermuda about the conference and saw it just through my Facebook post.
That's
and
awesome.
I'll give you guys her testament of, and she went into detailed feedback of what she said.
Well, just go ahead and say it now.
Let's say, don't keep us hanging. Let's hear it.
Okay, well, it said, first of all, it takes the pressure off of the teacher who has to do PD, but is unable to waste time sitting in a workshop. I found that I was motivated to sit and listen to each one without interruption. Usually PDs are in person, after school, or when teachers are mentally not in the frame of mind to even engage. Secondly, the workshops are more to the point and intentional when they are online like this, because they only have a short time to present their information. Number 3, the fact that the topics fit perfectly with the pulse of the teachers is phenomenal. And 4th, the presenters are so inspirational and innovative. And so, you know, and there's more that this particular teacher wrote, but the fact that, you know, she was saying, we don't want wasted time. And, you know, you can go to an in-person conference, it kind of seems dragged out, but she was able to pick things and felt that the topics were relevant. It wasn't the same old stuff. And I think that's important, you know, when we go to conferences as well. So I just wanted to share that. That was some feedback that this teacher said she was willing to take to additional teachers in Bermuda, and wanted to figure out how she could get them signed up and still get access to the courses as well.
That's all I wanted to say. I think we just lost Jesse though. That's all I wanted to say. I thought it was just phenomenal that option that was there. But along with that, the fact that the more sessions that you watch, you had the ability to actually earn some, you know, the credentials to display your learning. You know, that was great. I love the gamification aspect of it, you know, with the badges as well, the micro-credentialing that was added in there. You see people trying to do that, but to do it in a format where it felt like you were actually learning a lesson was pretty dope, you know, as well. So as Valerie said, you know, there's still a chance, but that's just tonight. You can register tonight, you know, to get access for 2 additional weeks. You know, I think I just heard Jesse pop back in, but I can't get to him though. Where you at, Jesse? pop back in in order to be able to access those sessions. I can't get Jesse back in.
You snooze, you lose, Jesse. I don't know what to tell you, brother.
I know.
There he goes. There he goes.
There he is.
Valerie started giving that feedback, and I think my computer got so excited it crashed. What happened?
That's some good stuff, though.
Fill me in. I was gonna say, fill me in. Was it good?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I have to watch on the replay.
That's funny. Yeah, watch the replay for sure.
Yeah, that was good. So Eric, do you want to give us, like, the viewing audience, some parting thoughts as we get ready to roll out into a school year? As you heard here, Natasha and I are both in the Metro Atlanta area, and we're gearing up for students to come back. What would you say to those educators going back into the classroom, or building leaders that need to support teachers in an innovative way?
Well, I mean, I'm going to echo a lot of what's been said, that when we talk about PD changing and being different now, as a presenter, just like we've heard said, rarely have I been able to take advantage of other people's sessions. I'm, either presenting or I'm preparing for presenting. I have loved the fact that so many, conferences are now saying, okay, we're going to have things recorded and available for some period of time. And I've been able to, while eating lunch, watch, a friend or somebody I've never met, or who knows, but watch a session and grow myself. And so I guess my encouragement is to teachers to take your learning into your own hands. There is so much stuff out there. There's so many resources out there, and folks have, learned from the pandemic, and like we see here with the Changemaker conference, and there's gonna be a lot more conferences like that coming up as well. I do a conference for my job. I work at a regional service center in Northeast Ohio. And so we support about 35 school districts up here. And we do a conference every August to kick off the school year and get back. Well, it's virtual this year, and we're taking cues from a lot of these things like Changemaker and a lot of other ones. And we're going to have some things live. We're going to have other things pre-recorded, but then we're going to have them available for a period of time. And it's free, and people can take advantage of those. And so that's my encouragement is, don't wait for somebody to, professionally develop you. Grow, go out and find these things. And whether it's, a great Facebook group to plug into, or a conference or a blog, or maybe you're a podcast person, that's the thing. It's never been easier to find what you need. Maybe you're that teacher, like we said earlier, who just teaches you're the only person who teaches something in a school, well, but guess what? There's thousands of you all around the world. And, to be able to find that tribe and to connect to those people, getting PD and growing professionally is easier than it's ever been.
See, Eric be giving away t-shirts. That's another t-shirt. Don't wait for someone else to grow you. I'm making those. All right. I'm taking all the credit for all of these. I'm going to make them all. And I'll send them to you to sign so we can get actually sell some, special autographs, versions of the shirt. Go ahead, Valerie. I'm sorry.
Yep. No, and Natasha, I was going to ask you if you kind of share, what would you encourage the audience members, those that did not register for the conference, that still have an opportunity to register tonight? What would your words of encouragement be going into this next school year as well?
My words of encouragement would be everything Eric said, because it's Eric Kurtz stuff. But also just keep trying new things. Keep trying new things. Find creative ways to engage your students, and seek out those opportunities. Right? It's not always about going to PD that your principal sends you to, or whatever. If you are really passionate about your practice and engaging your kids, there's so much out there that's free that you can take advantage of. And don't get overwhelmed. Pick a tool or two, pick a resource or two, figure out how you can engage it, how you can use it in your content, and just keep pushing, but take time to rest too.
I think that's probably what draws people like Eric and Natasha and myself to technology. Is it does create those opportunities for people to figure out new ways to get excited about working with their kids, right? It pushes the envelope and gets us thinking beyond what we were always doing, right? And I think that's why I've been so excited. And I wrote the book, I wrote the AR/VR book, and then the esports book, because those are exciting new like frontiers for how we're going to address teaching and learning in new and innovative ways. But I think the goal of the conference wasn't just about technology; it was all these other things, and we're going to keep doing that work in between conferences. So after this one ends, tomorrow, we immediately go back to work in terms of finding more workshops and opportunities to put on the platform. And, every district that does work with us, their sessions go on a custom channel on our platform that's only available to them, along with all the other stuff that they have access to, those hundreds of courses that are on the platform. So we're really excited to see where this goes. And, next year, I hope we're coming and talking about, everything we've been able to accomplish over the course of the next year in terms of these amazing opportunities we're able to put together. I just want to give a shout out really quickly to ViewSonic and DBC, Dave Burgess Consulting Inc., who helped make the conference happen and help make it free for educators, who provided us with giveaways. Learner Mobile is the provider we've been using to kind of build the platform on top of. Our team at Changemaker, Ray Learner One, TMI Education all kind of contributed to make this happen. And we've been so blessed to have all these amazing educators, 60 plus educators working with us to kind of contribute their knowledge. And I want to throw down the gauntlet right now, because I've seen Brian before online talking about, we're going to throw a podcast conference. Let's do it. We're going to throw it. We'll figure out, we're going to get all these sessions on our platform. We're going to do this. Another conference for educators. We're going to make it happen.
That's what's up.
Yeah. Let's talk about that.
To talk about that. Talk about that. And look, and we'll do a whole session on Eric and this beard gang, Natasha and these popping curls, because you guys didn't catch the pre-show conversation about products, and it wasn't us women talking about the hair products, it was the men. So we're gonna have to do a whole nother thing about this hair product and stuff. But Natasha and Eric, we so appreciate your voice tonight, and we want to be respectful of the time and allow you guys to connect with your families, and then we'll do the wrap up. But Eric, if you don't mind, tell the people where they can follow you. Please plug and link your book if someone wants to connect with that. And then Natasha, the same for you. Just let people know where they can connect with you and where they can access some of the resources that you've published.
Yeah, so probably the easiest thing is just to go to my blog, which is controlaltachieve.com. Everything's there at controlaltachieve.com. You'll find tabs across the top. One of them is for my book, so all the book information's there. That's where my blog posts are, all my training videos, and my Twitter, email, YouTube. It's all linked in on there. So controlaltachieve.com, and you can get everything from there.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric. And Natasha?
Yes. So Twitter is probably the first place. I'm at APSIT Natasha. So Atlanta Public Schools Instructional Technology Natasha. It's long. And then my website is natasharachel.com, and everything is there.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you, Eric and Natasha, and we cannot wait to speak to you guys again. So guys, make sure that you connect, sign up, changemakeredu.org, catch their sessions and all the other sessions that are on there. And Eric and Natasha, we will catch up with you guys later.
Thanks so much.
And Jesse, we've got some things to give away.
We're giving away stuff, but I think we're going to announce it after the show.
After the show.
She wasn't watching the chat. She wasn't watching the chat.
Reading is fundamental. Look, y'all trying to be the multitask.
No, it's easy. We just solved that problem. We're gonna announce this after the show.
Look, you got to give me my accommodation here now. You got to chunk things.
We're giving away a copy of the book I co-authored with another one of the presenters, Chris Aviles, and Steve Isaacs and Christine Lyon Bailey, the Esports Education Playbook. We will contact that person directly. And also, in Brian, I don't know if you still have the link, but the ViewSonic board giveaway, please throw that up one more time again. Yeah. You will never have an easier time winning an electronic whiteboard of your own. I think this one's 24 inches.
So you have to be in the classroom to get it?
You have to be in the registration. I actually realize now that I just put a link directly to the form, but that's, I'm considering this like our wrap up session for the conference. So this is an extension of the conference experience. It's been really great to hear. To be honest, it's really great to hear from some of the presenters and kind of what their experience was as well. This was a learning experience for us as well, right? It was all based on thinking. And, I'm starting my doctoral work in the fall on micro-credentialing. So obviously that's a passion area of mine. So basing a conference around micro-credentials and badging and things like that is really something that I'm interested to see. I think there's a space in it. I think there's going to be a big space for micro-credentialing, both for teachers and for our learners over the next few years. So I'm excited to see where that takes us to.
Absolutely. Well, definitely connect with Senor G, Noah
That's
Geisel.
right, Noah Geisel, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's like my hero, man. He's full time now. There you go.
Yes. Tatul, I don't know about you, but I think Valerie Lewis may have to come up with alternative. I might have to go in for that whiteboard, get something for some
That's
teachers.
hilarious. You know what I was thinking? I was like, yo, like, can I put in for it? And will they know it's me? And will I need to change my name?
If you're register for the conference, you could enter. It's not in the rules and regs as far as I know. Sonic's on board with that. That's so funny. But
I swear, I was thinking, I was like, should I?
Look,
Glad you brought
we're
it up.
gonna be hooking up some teachers.
You know what? Go for it, man. You're part of the conference experience. Go for it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Jesse, anything else that you want to share and add further with Ready Learner and what do we need?
Yeah, you guys know me. I'm a talker, so I could go on for another hour. But I guess I'll sum it up by just saying, please check out the work we're doing at changemakeredu.org. I think, if anything, what we found was we actually sold a bunch of individual registrations. So people purchased individual memberships to all of the events for the entire year, which kind of surprised me because I think, it shows a real dedication on the parts of teachers that they're willing to dip into their own pockets, which we know and is unfortunate that that's the way that, because really we've structured the model so that this is affordable for schools. But we're just really excited to get more schools on board doing the work alongside us, more great educators like yourselves. I think to get a greater sense of what the types of offerings are, you can check them out at the website. My Twitter is at Jesse Lubinsky. The Twitter for Changemaker is ChangemakerPLN. The website, again, changemakeredu.org. My website's jesselubinsky.com.
Follow the hashtag 21Changemaker.
Yeah, follow the hashtag 21Changemaker. I don't even bother giving out my book links anymore because they're on my website. So if you get my website, you go there. There's too much to say.
That's awesome.
My podcast, partial.credit. Brian knows this, right?
I should have had all that ready.
Goes on and on. It goes on and on.
It'll take me an hour just to do my bio.
Oh my goodness. Oh. Well, register, guys. You heard it here first. This was the conference wrap up, so to speak, but it's not too late to access those courses. As you've heard, you've got quality presenters. There's no fluff here. It wasn't a checkbox. Nope. There was intention behind it. There's meaning behind it. There's purpose behind it. Go out and be your own change maker. Grab it by the horns. Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that.